transport topics in Washington, D.C., this is RoadSigns.
Thank you for listening to RoadSigns, the podcast series from Transport Topics that explores the trends and technologies that are shaping the future of trucking. In this episode, we're going to explore tire management and its impact on the bottom line for commercial fleets. As we all know, the trucking industry has been navigating a freight rate recession for the past 2.5 years. This has been putting even more pressure on fleets to control their operating expenses, including tires. But how can commercial fleets better manage their tire costs? And how much of a difference can this make in a thin margin business like trucking? We'll set out to answer those questions in this episode. But before we begin, I'd like to share a word from our sponsor. This episode of RoadSigns is brought to you by Sailun Tires. With the North American trucking industry facing significant headwinds, Sailun Tire Americas is here to help. From cutting costs on tires to saving big on fuel, Sailun is delivering smart, reliable solutions for fleet operators. Sailun combines premium quality with real-world performance, offering durable, high-value tires for everything from cars and trucks to commercial vehicles. Backed by industry-leading tread life warranties, Sailun tires are a smart choice for drivers and fleets alike. Ready to drive your business forward? Visit gosailun.com. Sailun Tires, with you through every turn. And now, to learn more about controlling tire expenses, I'm excited to bring in two guests from our episode sponsor. Justin Large is Sailun's Director of Sales for Commercial Products in North America, and Alan Eagleson is Segment Manager for all truck and bus products at Sailun Tire Americas. Welcome to the podcast, Justin and Al.
Thanks for having us, Seth.
So as I mentioned at the top, the trucking industry has been dealing with a tough freight market, right? Really for the last 2 years now. There's been an oversupply of capacity. It's been holding down freight rates. There are some signs that we've hit the trough, and hopefully we'll see some recovery in 2025. But it really has been a tough few years for motor carriers. So, gentlemen, from your vantage point, just how has this been changing the way that fleet operators are thinking about their operating costs, including tires?
I would say their margins are thinner than they've ever been before, Seth. When you look at the added costs they're facing as far as driver wages, insurance costs, mechanic costs, all of those things are really adding to their operating expenses. At the end of the day, every fleet, whether you're a 2-truck carrier or a national top 10 fleet within North America, they're looking at any viable option to help reduce their operating costs right now. The easiest fix when it comes to any truck fleet is to look at your tire program. Your biggest expense when it comes to trucking is your fuel, your insurance, and your tires. When it comes to fuel and insurance, they're pretty non-negotiable and they are pretty steadfast at where they are. So your next logical option is to look at your tire program. So looking at a program that delivers you value, a program that delivers you a total cost of ownership, not just focusing at upfront initial costs, what that tire costs to run when that tire was removed from your vehicle. That's what a lot of fleets are looking at right now. So just to kind of sum up, any viable option when it comes to any product or service that's on the table right now, every fleet is really doing their due diligence, doing their research, and understand if that's going to help their business long term.
And I would just add, Seth, that the fleets have to keep their vehicles running. So it's essential for them to look at lower cost alternatives like retreading or lower acquisition price tires.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, not only are rates challenged, freight rates have been down since that peak in 2021. Operating costs have been up, so it's really been a squeezing trucking companies' margins pretty severely. And as you both put it, tires are a very large variable in the bottom line. Speaking of that, when you look at the commercial tire market, fleets do have many choices out there. Generally speaking, tire products have been getting better over time, of course, but they've also been becoming more expensive as well. So how do you think about this at Sailun? How do you strike a balance between cost effectiveness and tire quality?
Well, I'm going to start with that one, Justin. I would just say that we really don't cut corners when it comes to quality. In today's market, having a quality tire is really the table stakes because there's so many choices available. We try to run as lean as possible to manage costs so we can deliver products that provide value to the user. And we won't ever be the cheapest, but we feel we have a really solid value proposition to offer to fleets and owner operators.
Yeah, I would say it's finding that balance between cost and quality. Not all expensive tires are going to deliver you value, and not all inexpensive tires are going to deliver you performance. So it's about finding that perfect equilibrium to deliver a product that delivers you value, delivers you cost of ownership, but is also a bit more palatable at acquisition price.
For sure. And of course, tires have a much broader impact on a fleet's budget than just the cost of the tires themselves, right? The tire life, retreading you mentioned, and of course, fuel economy. These are all factors in total cost of ownership that your tire decisions, your tire management programs have a role in. So really, what's the best way for fleets to track the full cost of operation in their tire programs, taking into account all those variables?
I would say most fleets, if not pretty much all of them, are doing a lot of data tracking on themselves. Data is king when it comes to maintenance for trucking fleets. Most of them have it drilled down to the actual unit number, what the cost per mile is for that unit, either tire costs, fuel costs, you name it. They're tracking that with a fine-tooth comb, because at the end of the day, that fleet manager has to report to their superiors where their operating budget is. Are they either over or they're under, and how are they going to help correct it moving forward? So measuring fuel economy, so low rolling resistance tires, measuring overall spend, so how is our retread program? Are we buying more casings than necessary? Are we buying products that are not as retreadable as some of the competitors are? Things like that that fleets can do to really track measurement as far as both cost saving and how they can control costs within their fleet.
And I would say, Justin touched on a little bit, but the tire mileage and the life cycle costs are relatively easy for fleets to track. You know the mileage on and off for your tires and the tread depth on and off. You also know the price. So the cost per mile is just the math between all of those data points. And then when you add retreading into the mix, each retread lowers the acquisition price, so the cost per mile improves with each retread life. The tougher expense for fleets to measure is the fuel economy component. The issue is that there's so many factors that affect it. When you look at different drivers and their habits, you look at the weather, the terrain, the load, and so on. However, this is where fleets can have a really big impact on their bottom line if they can measure and control that fuel economy.
Yeah, that's a really fascinating question. And in my conversations over the years with fleet managers, understanding fuel economy there's just so many pieces, so many variables in the equation, right? It's how the driver is performing, it's the terrain, it's the load, it's of course the tires and tire pressure, how well you're maintaining your equipment. So many different variables, so many different factors, but the companies that are really kind of leading the way have really sophisticated ways of tracking that. Sometimes working with third-party partners to understand the true fuel economy impact. This episode of RoadSigns is brought to you by Sailun Tires. With the North American trucking industry facing significant headwinds, Sailun Tire Americas is here to help. From cutting costs on tires to saving big on fuel, Sailun is delivering smart, reliable solutions for fleet operators. Sailun combines premium quality with real-world performance, offering durable, high-value tires for everything from cars and trucks to commercial vehicles. Backed by industry-leading tread life warranties, Sailun tires are a smart choice for drivers and fleets alike. Ready to drive your business forward? Visit gosailun.com. Sailun Tires, with you through every turn. On the tire side, over time, we've seen, that's really been playing out in this shift toward low rolling resistance tires. The idea is, of course, to improve fuel economy, you're reducing greenhouse gas emissions. From what you've seen, how much can fleet operators truly boost their fuel efficiency with modern low rolling resistance tires?
Well, I had kind of worked on a little bit of math to go along with that question, Seth. And when you look at the balance between tire cost and fuel cost, uh, I looked at a situation where if you traveled 300,000 miles and you were able to save 1% on fuel versus 1% on tire cost over those 300,000 miles, definitely a lot more to save on the fuel side. So if you considered 300,000 miles at 8 miles per gallon, that's 37,500 gallons. And it's, let's say for average right now, $3.50 a gallon. So $131,250 on fuel. A 1% savings equals $1,312.50. If you look at your tire cost over those same 300,000 miles, assuming that all 18 wheel positions are going to get 300,000 miles at $500 a piece per tire, that's a total of $9,000. If you can save 1% on those, it's $90 savings. So just a 1% to 1% comparison, it's really, really significant, the difference that you can save on fuel. If you could look at buying tires that lower your rolling resistance by 5%, which equates to a 1% improvement in fuel economy, that's with all things being equal, of course, you have an opportunity to save some serious money.
Yeah, no doubt.
There are a couple other aspects as well too. I mean, there is the data that proves how much can be saved with low roller resistance tires. There's also the environmental impact as well too, burning less fossil fuels to move the truck down America's highways. Fuel efficiency obviously is a huge component in saving or help the financial impact for the fleet. Also meeting stricter regulations that are continuing going to present themselves depending on the state, depending on the jurisdiction, and commitment to sustainability as well too. Sustainability is obviously a big component of doing business these days. So anything that we can do to lessen our carbon footprint looks good both with the fleet and the customers of said fleet.
Yeah, for sure. Another piece of this total cost of ownership pie that we mentioned earlier is retreading. That's an important factor for many commercial fleets, and I know that's a point of emphasis at Sailun, which does offer the ability to retread casings, multiple times. So just kind of projecting forward, do you envision the use of retreads, continuing to expand in the trucking industry in the years ahead, given the potential value there?
My opinion, yes. Just for the previous points we just talked about, sustainability, carbon footprint, environmental impact, it takes far fewer resources, far fewer fossil fuels, materials, that kind of thing to produce a retread over and above a new tire. So I don't see retreading going anywhere, just based on the world that we live in. We were fortunate at Sailun. We do have a product that retreads fantastic. We do have a very robust warranty that goes along with our products. So when we do present these products to our customers and our fleets, we can at least assure them that they do have a quality product that will be perform very well for the first life and will retread successfully for lives 2, 3, 4 afterwards.
I think it's something that fleets, excuse me, I think it's something that fleets should really consider seriously from a savings standpoint. The technology in retreading tires is extremely advanced today. It's not your granddaddy's retread shop anymore. If small fleet owners and owner operators, if they don't think they can save money by retreading, they have to ask themselves, why do companies like Ryder Truck Rentals and Transportation and companies like Waste Management, who have the best new tire buying power on the planet, why do they have such extensive retreading programs? It's simply because retreading saves them money.
Yeah, for sure. It's really interesting, and we have seen, to your point, some of the biggest names, of course, in the transportation industry, very much are big on retreading. Also wanted to talk about tire maintenance. As we all know, maintaining proper tire pressure can really have a big impact, not only on the tire's life, but also fuel economy, as well as safety, right? I mean, you reduce the potential for for blowouts and safety problems out on the road if you properly maintain tire pressure. Of course, the driver's pre and post trip inspections are very important, but there's also technology on the market, tire pressure monitoring and automatic tire inflation systems, that are designed to help fleets and drivers keep their tires properly inflated and prevent some of those issues. What's your advice to fleets on how to get the most out of their tires and maintain the pressure effectively?
Certainly, Seth, all those points are important to ensuring the success of the tire program. I think that tire pressure monitoring systems sometimes offer a false sense of security. Tires still need to be inspected properly. It's not only about maintaining the air pressure. Fleet operators need to match tire pressure to the load being carried to optimize tire performance. I find a lot of cases where fleets have tires overinflated. Just because the steer tire needs 105 psi based on the load being carried, it doesn't mean that all tires should be inflated to 105 psi. The drive and trailer tires are carrying way less load per tire. They can operate with a much lower air pressure, as low as 70 to 75 psi, depending on the tire size. So that's as important as the maintenance part is making sure the pressure is right.
I would say, kind of echo Al's points, even though we do have technology out there to make our lives a little bit easier when it comes to tire pressure monitoring, a human eye still is needed at the pre and post trip inspection. I think Al said it best. Sometimes they can give you a false sense of security. Knowing that piece of technology is there sometimes removes the responsibility to inspect that tire. A human eye goes a long, long way. So just taking the time to ensure that those tires are performed properly, to ensure that those tire monitoring systems are working properly, will deliver you long-term value for your tire program.
Yeah, I appreciate that advice for our listeners. And kind of turning back to the beginning of our conversation about the freight market we've been in for the last few years. As we look ahead to the year to come, there is some optimism out there that we'll see. Maybe not this huge surge in demand and this robust recovery, but at least a gradual freight market recovery. See some rate improvement moving into 2025. Curious about your thoughts on that. I'm not asking you to gaze into the crystal ball here, but also, what are your thoughts on how a market recovery, a bit of a rebound, might change the tire market in the coming months?
Yeah, good question, Seth. There are signs of a slow recovery taking place. Some colleagues of mine, both in the transportation sector and in the servicing fleet sector, either trailers or trucks, they're noticing an uptick the last couple of months. So that's kind of indicative of the market starting to pick up a little bit. I don't think we're going to see the level that we saw at COVID time in 2025, but it is going to be a slow, gradual process to get back to a kind of a sense of normality. So that's a positive sign for all of us. As far as the tire market goes, I mean, that's great news for us. The more that those trucks and trailers are rolling down North America's highways, the more they're going to wear those tires out. And at the end of the day, at Sailun, we produce a quality product, and we're excited to sell more of those products to our partners and fleets throughout North America.
Yeah, and in this situation that the market might slow a little bit, fleets are still going to look for tires, and they'll do that at a lower acquisition price that will deliver the best value. And the nice thing about our brands is that we're somewhat recession-proof in that way because we offer a lower price product that delivers equivalent value to some of the tier one brands.
For sure. And of course, as we move into the new year, we're also potentially anticipating some higher tariffs on imported goods under the Trump administration. New leadership in the White House. A lot of conversation about what that'll mean for international supply chains and, of course, pricing for commercial truck tires. I'd love to hear you guys weigh in on that.
That's a tricky one, isn't it? When it comes to tariffs and government affairs and that kind of thing. At the end of the day, the risk of tariffs is always there. I don't think you can ever operate fully well thinking that you're never going to be affected by a tariff. So being diversified as well as we can be to help service our customers. So if there were a tariff to come along, at least we're ready for something that would come across.
And it would definitely have an impact. I would say as long as all countries are treated with equal tariffs, then the playing field will remain level. The problem will be that the fleets and ultimately the consumers will be the ones that are most negatively impacted by the higher cost created by the tariffs. There's not enough domestic commercial tire production to meet the demands of the industry, so the U.S. will have to continue to import tires, and the ramifications will be across the board for everybody that's involved.
Yeah, certainly something we'll be watching closely in January and beyond. This has been a great conversation, gentlemen, but before we wrap up, I'd love to just open it up here to any parting thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners, anything we didn't get to, or any final words.
I would just like to say thanks for having us on your program today. It's been a great conversation. We appreciate the invite for sure. I would say that yes, we are still in a challenging economic environment when it comes to trucking. There are a lot of options out there as far as products, services, vendors that help help the trucking fleets. At the end of the day, we feel we're in a very value propositional position to help these trucking fleets throughout North America. So deliver them value, deliver them a true cost of ownership, and be a true partner. We're not here just to sell a product. We're here to help deliver, help offer solutions, and be a strategic vendor moving forward.
Yeah, Seth, I think it was Henry Ford that said, if you always do what you've always done, the result won't change. So when it comes to tires, it's no longer about the country of origin, it's about the factory of origin. And Sailun Tire has some of the newest and most advanced tire factories in the world. We just say to the users out there, give Sailun Tire or one of our brands a try, and the results will change.
Well, gentlemen, great conversation. Really appreciated having you on here. Thanks again, Justin and Al, for joining the podcast and sharing your insights with us.
Thank you, Seth. Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Seth.
Did you know you can ask Alexa to open Transport Topics? In just 1 minute, you will hear the biggest trucking headlines of that day. Be prepared and start your morning off right with Transport Topics.
Before we close, let's take a moment to revisit our original questions. How can commercial fleets better manage their tire costs? And how much of a difference can this make in a thin margin business like trucking? As we've discussed during this episode, tires are a significant piece of any carrier's budget. From the purchase price to retreading and fuel economy, optimizing tire performance and value can have a big impact on the bottom line. If you've enjoyed this episode of RoadSigns, please let others know. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If my questions have sparked questions of your own, share them with me and the RoadSigns team. You can email us at share@ttnews.com. We'll read them and respond daily. And of course, we'll be back soon with a fresh episode of RoadSigns. Until then, I'm Seth Clevenger. Thank you for listening.